Voices of Introspection, a podcast brought to you by Nexus Diaries, where we explore the depths of self discovery with thought leaders, coaches, and changemakers. I'm your host, Harini Balachandar, who's endlessly curious about the inner workings of our minds and the journey of self awareness. Through these conversations, I uncover the stories, insights, and transformations that shape who we are. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with an incredible guest, Navixha. She is a TEDx speaker, a leadership coach, and a mindset mentor with over 25 years of experience empowering individuals and organizations to grow with intention. As the founder of Organize Your Life OYL coaching business, she helps people bring clarity, structure, and purpose to their personal and professional lives. Naviksha's journey is one of continuous transformation. From a thriving career in IT and corporate marketing to her deep involvement in self development and leadership, she has embraced conscious learning at every step. She is also the visionary behind the 5K Sari Walk, an initiative that challenges stereotypes and celebrates women's leadership. Her story is filled with introspection, growth, and the power of intentional change. But before we dive into her inspiring journey, let's start with a little self reflection. Naviksha, what is something you have learned about yourself recently that truly surprised you?
I have a lot more impatience than I ever thought I was capable of. I'm impatient, but I choose to believe that all for the right things and the right reasons.
Oh, really? Can you give me an example of that?
I think I'm mostly impatient with my own self. I have good tenacity, or I do have good endurance levels when I am waiting for results to turn around. You know, when you're just in that waiting mode, you've done your bit, your contribution is done, and now it's just a waiting game. I think I'm okay during that phase because I have plenty of other things to distract myself and, stay focused on. But when I feel like I am not expediting something fast enough, or my contribution is not where I expect it to be, that just blows me off my mental wheels.
I get it. I can be pretty impatient too. But over time, I've learned to take a deep breath and remind myself, okay, this will come to me when the time is right. That said, when we actually have the power to move things forward, it's easy to feel that urge to act, right? It's like having a bunch of balls in your court. We know we want to pass them on, but the real challenge is figuring out which one to pass first. Speaking of challenges, I'd love to take a step back and talk about young Naviksha. Can you share a moment in your early years when you had a major realization about yourself? Something that made you think, I need to unblock this and move forward. I know this is a broad question, but was there a pivotal moment when you knew change had to happen?
Um, yeah, maybe if I could, go back in time and reset on something, is just that would be finding comfort in my own skin much earlier on. And what I at that time perceived as being maybe a complex or just feeling awkward, what in reality was me just not standing tall and proud with my differences or my individuality. And what I mean by that, Harini, is that I was always introverted, which I tried to protect that, or I tried to justify that to myself, that I am not as vibrant enough as others. I'm not maybe as smart, as outgoing, as vivacious. So don't even try. But whereas what I could have done is own my own quiet strength, own my ability to introspect, own my ability to be more thoughtful, of having greater observation when it came to my own self awareness, my own mental patterns, my own emotional rhythms. So, even as an extremely young person, I was always hyper self aware. And back then, I misunderstood for that to be self consciousness. It was self awareness. And I feel I'm so blessed, but heck, had I wish I'd recognized that much earlier on.
That's really fascinating. The difference between self consciousness and self awareness. Could you share a specific example that would resonate with today's generation? Something that could help them understand the distinction when they are going through similar experiences. How would you define self consciousness versus self awareness in a way that makes it clear?
Uh, Being okay with not following the crowd mentality, being okay with having a different preference. Whereas, example being, if everybody is gravitating towards a certain phenomenon, or a popular music or concert or artist or whatever, right? Or having a popular choice or consensus. But if you have valid reasons to think differently, and you prefer maybe knitting or sewing or working or doing some research or building a prototype, as opposed to doing the more popular or more athletic or more mainstream activities, that's okay. As long as you let your own inner creativity flow, and you're making the most productive time at your end, and you're enjoying it, and you feel like you're actualizing yourself, and it resonates with you, it comes from within you, and
Mhm.
it's not illegal, immoral, unkind, self detrimental, it's all good. So basically, in essence, what I mean is to be okay by being you. It's okay to be different and not be mainstream.
Got it. I think that perspective is really helpful. Back when I was younger, I used to think I was being a bit of a rebel just because I had certain unique preferences. But looking back, I realized it wasn't really about rebelling, it was about respecting myself and my choices. The word rebel can sometimes carry a negative connotation, but in reality, it can just be a sign of self awareness, right?
I agree, Harini. And what I see in you and what I resonate with personally is that quiet determination. It is that quietness of knowing your own mind and your own path and staying strong on it,
Mhm.
right? Not getting wavered, not getting intimidated. You stay honest to what where your passions want to take you and how they want to flow. So a couple of examples during my growing up days would be, let's say, so I was in an extremely prestigious school, and it was all girls, but we had two sections. We literally had two campuses right opposite the street, the girls' campus and the boys' campus. And for anybody who's familiar, I am extremely proud of being an alumni of La Martiniere from Calcutta. So, with all the girls, let's say if they enjoyed, uh, I think we call it shipping or something, you ship people together. That's what the young people, I guess that's the term, where you just match make basically, or pairing up random people and you find
Oh,
it hilarious.
interesting.
I think I have no idea. So if they're indulging in those things and making someone awkward, or maybe some childish, silly, but unkind jokes about a teacher or about another child, something that seems just, very seemingly innocent, but it doesn't get me interested, or I feel that that's not the most healthy use of my conversation time, then I would rather just sit down and put my head into an Enid Blyton book or a Nancy Drew or whatever it was during those days, right? So yeah, because I chose something else that gave me greater contentment, and that just felt a better use of my time, and it better aligned with my sensibilities. And I think the perception maybe was that she's a little awkward, she's shy. And I absorbed that. I took that on, that outward perception on, and I internalized it. But now I see that there was a choice that I was making for myself. In fact, it was introspective. There was purpose there. There was intentionality. It wasn't a weakness, and it wasn't submission. In fact, to your point, there was a silent rebel in there that said, you know what, you can't change me, and I'm comfortable being alone, but I'd rather do what resonates with me. Like we say nowadays, you do you. I think I started on that journey much earlier than I could practically see or assess in that manner.
That's incredible. It's so powerful to have that mindset early on and feel not pressured to fit in just for the sake of it. I really appreciate you sharing that. Now, I'd love to dive into your career journey and how it led you to becoming a coach and mentor. Can you take me back, maybe not too far this time, but to your corporate experiences? What were some key moments that shaped your path? And of course, tell me about OIL. How did it come to be? What does it stand for?
Right. All right. So I love that. I love that multi part question there, and multifaceted in the sense that, the stories I think I need to recount and share to be able to fully do justice to what you asked. But we don't want to be spending 3 days covering this singular question. So I'll try to be as succinct yet as clarifying as possible to these questions. So, going back to my earliest journey, I finished school and I started working as a marketing and customer rep for a major Fortune 500 company in India. And that was great. It was a great starting job right out of college. It was all hunky dory. And I enjoyed getting dressed and going to work every day and, just being in that people energy and exploring myself and taking on new experiences. All was fantastic. Yet I felt as though there was some void, or there was something different and a higher purpose. It can sound extremely cheesy, but there was, that mystifying, mysterious something else that I was seeking. And at that time, to me, I misunderstood for that to be maybe another person, maybe that, magical someone who would come into my life and sweep me off my feet, or something extremely grand, grandiose, shining, shimmery outside. So I stumbled into a spiritual practice, and rather, I think it's more self development than spiritual. And this is an extremely large nonprofit. And I simply stumbled into their programs and I did the workshop. And I went with this big ego of mine, which at that time I thought was just my own self confidence and, my self worth and self knowledge of me knowing mostly almost everything there was to know out there, right? That's what I thought. And I went in with this big head. And let me tell you this, Harini, maybe I did know a little bit of what was facilitated and, shared or taught, whatever. Maybe I did know that in theory, but I was not living that in my life. I was not practicing those simple principles of open conversation, of humility, of being willing to learn lessons, of practicing patience with others, right? I wasn't implementing none of that. So
Mhm.
in fact it was extremely humbling for me, because that each point that was made just came and it hit the spot in me, and it blow by blow or bit by bit or incrementally it shattered this ego that I had built up inside of me, and it humbled me, and it broke through that exterior and that self perception. And I think it just made me a more real, more organic, more down to earth, and even simply said, a more pleasant person for my family to be around and my friends, etc. So it was a fast track journey. And then, encouraged by my own teachers and mentors, I went in for the teacher training program. And then, literally within a year of me having undergone this program myself, I became a certified facilitator within a year. So, this was a volunteer track. And while I pursued my corporate journey, I was also avidly teaching these workshops. And then I took breaks. And this was much to the consternation of my parents because, as a young 20 something person, now you're going off the beaten path and you're pulling out from a traditional job that to, a good MNC role, as we call it. And I spent months then traveling to Northeast India. And I actually stayed at the army bases. And yeah, they had to acclimatize me and move me from base to base so that my body could adjust to those climbs and those conditions. And for several months on end, I facilitated these programs for the Indian Army across all levels of seniority, the senior brigadiers and senior officers and their spouses. And then we would do it for the soldiers, the jawans. And early in the mornings, jeeps would take me down into town. So these were all small towns up in near the army bases and mostly small shops and businesses. So in the morning hours at 4:30 or 5, I would begin the workshops for the shop owners before they could go and open their business and set up shop. I was just on this journey, and mostly an inward journey, an inner journey, which just helped me find that connection with my own self. And so much for me fell into perspective. I began to understand my own self, my motivations, my aspirations, and I absolutely appreciate and strive for worldly success. It's extremely important to me. I enjoy it. I want to be successful in whatever sphere I am. And when I was in corporate, I took immense pride and I put in the work to progress my career and enjoy every single milestone and be aspiring and working my butt off for that next level. So I enjoy that worldly trajectory. But finding this inner understanding and connection with myself was just so precious. So all of that, perspective happened for me. I came to the US I got my working visa, the H-1B visa. And then I also met my husband here. And then life took off as an immigrant and wanting to make your success and enjoy that success. And I actually reveled, I deeply reveled and cherished my corporate journey as well. And I thrived in every single role and I persevered and I gave it my all. It was important to me. And having had my first child as well, while he was still an infant, I think less than a year, I initiated my master's degree online and completed that in less than 3 years. So it just felt,
Wonderful.
yeah. I think it was good, definitely good to have on paper and my resume. But I think there is no other compensation for actual learning and growth.
Hmm.
So it definitely contributed to my knowledge, my understanding, my self confidence, even. About 7 years ago, social media happened while I was still reveling my corporate journey. And I very naturally gravitated to topics and subjects that resonate with me and are the most closest, I guess, reflection or sneak peek into who I really am. So these were invariably life nuggets, relationship nuggets, personal lessons, right? Observations, a storytelling on human interactions, human relationships. So I wasn't looking to be an influencer. I was just looking to be someone who could share my stories and maybe have a value add or even just find that connection and find more like minded people. So when my online blogging or my online social media handles took off, I think I was the most shocked myself when the following happened. And yeah, so I think I was in that role of a thought leader. Um, and a year and a half ago, then the conscious decision to do this full time and to pursue my most innate passion, which is to work with people, reflect on life, learn a lot along the ride, and then in the capacity that I am able to mentor others and share from my journey, my research, my perspectives, and help them propel them onwards, both in their outer journey as well as their inner relationship and inner experiences.
Wow, that's such an incredible growth journey. At every step, you made a conscious decision to learn and push yourself forward. You weren't just absorbing knowledge, you were questioning, am I really practicing what I preach? And intentionally shaping your next steps. That kind of mindful learning is so powerful, and I really connect with that. I think many of us struggle with finding the same level of intention, wondering why am I here? What's my purpose? We often feel like we are just searching, trying to piece things together. And on that note, we are wrapping up part one of our conversation with Naviksha. Thank you for tuning in to Voices of Introspection brought to you by Nexus Diaries. Naviksha, I truly appreciate you spending this time with us. Make sure to check out part 2, where Naviksha shares some powerful role play lessons to help us on our introspective journey. You won't want to miss it. Until then, keep growing, keep learning, and this is Harini Balachandar signing off.